When I say cheap, I mean that I've spent $416 on everything that I've put onto this bike. That sounds like a lot, I know, but really if you're only here for the performance mods, the performance alone cost about $250, and it is night and day. So hear me out, let me break it down. There's 4 different categories of stuff that I've done to this bike. First being the aesthetic or usability category, and this is anything from USB lights to turn signals, things like that. The second is going to be your tools, the things that I bought to help aid in my modding of this bike. The third is going to be performance, and this is going to be things such as EJK and exhaust. The fourth is going to be just free stuff, things that I found out that I can do with the bike that work for me and doesn't require me to purchase any other items. So the first category, aesthetics and usability. So I bought $121 worth of stuff for this bike just in this section, and these are very, very, very useful items for riding a Trans-America Trail, and that's what I'm building my bike around. So looking at what I've done, we're going to start with the handlebars and what I've added to them. So I have a handlebar switch, and I bought a couple of Our Best dual halo LEDs, and these are really cool because this is kind of like a double use. The first being there's a halo ring around the outside of the light, which gives me the ability to keep them connected to my running lights and allows people to be able to see me. In this, I do not have to wire through the switch. It will not overload wiring that's already stock on the bike. The second purpose is that it does work as a super bright LED headlight, and this I did wire through the switch because I did not want to keep them on all the time. I didn't want to blind other drivers on the road. I really just wanted to use it for off-road use or maybe back road travel where nobody else is. The second thing that I bought for this bike was a full ram mount foam mount kit, and this ram quick grip for the foam mounts, I've seen a lot of people have a whole lot of trouble finding them, but I was able to find it pretty easily. I'll put a link down in the description. But this is the best foam mount I've ever used. The foam does not wiggle around. It's never fallen out. I've never wrecked with it yet, but I've seen a lot of YouTubers that use these things too, and they also say how good these things are, and they've wrecked with them, and they won't fall out, and they'll just help you hold your phone. I like the extensions because it's a lot closer to my face. I can move it out of the way if I really want to, so it doesn't take up the speedometer, but I really like having it closer so I can see exactly where I'm going. I can see my speed when I'm using the GPS, things like that. Another thing that was added, I did not purchase this. My dad purchased it for me because he's planning on doing the Trans-America Trail with me. But it's a dual port USB charger. And oh my gosh, one thing I forgot to add to this, the crf250l, the 2017 to 2019 model, they have an accessory lead that you can access, and I actually bought this piece through crfsonly.com. I'll link it in the description. It's kind of expensive. It was like $15, but it lets me plug right into the bike, which means that I don't have to worry about running a whole nother set of leads. And I also don't have to worry about the USB staying on when I turn the bike off. It turns off with the bike, which is fantastic. Anyways, the dual USB, it was pretty expensive. He got it from Bike Master. It was like $25. Any USB charger that you can find on Amazon that has pretty decent reviews, I'm sure is going to be good enough. Second category is going to be tools. Now for tools, I've spent $25, really not too bad, but this is all going to be things that are helpful for wiring up the lights and the switch and stuff like that. I bought Gardner Bender heat shrink butt splices. Now this lets you just connect the wires. I'm sure you know what a butt splice is. I bought heat shrink tubing that comes in all kinds of different colors, and I bought this so I could cover up the mess that I made through all the different colored wires that I've been using. And I also bought Astro Wire solder heat shrink butts, and I don't know if you've heard of these. This is definitely the first time that I've heard of these, but they make the process so much easier. These are incredible. I highly recommend you getting these. What they are their normal butt splice, but instead of you having to crimp the wires down together, you put both the wires in there to where they're intersecting each other right in the dead center. And then what I did was I took a torch and I applied heat, just on-off heat, until it melts the solder and it actually solders the two wires together. And you will not believe how well these things work. They are so easy to use. They're incredible. Next category is the free stuff. And the only free thing that I have done with this bike is I actually removed the front reflector holders that are connected to the forks, and I moved them one set up to the upper fork link, and then I took the LED halos and I actually bolted them onto that as a mount. Now the only downside to this is that the brake line that follows down the fork, it actually kind of rubs the bracket a little bit. I wrapped both the bracket and the brake line in electrical tape, and this helped it quite a bit. It still rubs, of course, but I don't think that is causing any damage to it. Sure, there can be a little sticky residue on there, but like you can wipe it off pretty easily. Next is the performance section. Now, what I did in performance of this bike, I can't stress this enough to you. It was so worth it in my opinion with how it woke this bike up. It was actually incredible. I didn't think it was going to do a whole lot to it. I thought the next day I was going to be returning everything that I bought, but no, it is actually incredible. When I first bought this bike, I'm a 450R, I'm a dirt bike rider, so I'm used to the big 450R racing bikes, and they have an incredible amount of power. Too much power for the trails, but when I first bought this bike, I was very underwhelmed with the amount of power that it had. I knew that it was a 250 engine. I knew that it was not going to be as powerful as my 450, but I did not know that the way that it brings the power to you was going to be so different. This bike loves to be ridden way high up in RPMs. I'm talking in between 6,000, 7,000 RPMs. That's where it makes all of its power. That was very different to me. I didn't like how it worked. I didn't like when my friends got on it. It kind of made me feel like they thought it was underpowered because they didn't know how to ride it properly. I wanted to do something with this bike, so I got online, I started looking at different ways to do things, and these are the 3 items that I bought. And these are the 3 items that you need if you want to really wake this bike up. It is actually incredible and 100% worth it. It cost me $269, but that is also including a set of little foam filters that you can stick inside of, that you can drill holes in the air boxes, but I didn't want to do that. Everything that I've done to this bike is so easy to revert back to stock that it just makes it all the more worth it. I bought a EJK. You'll have to get it specifically for your bike. If yours is the 2017 to 2019, I have a link for it down below. The EJK cost about $225. That's not including tax. And then I bought a spark arrestor insert that I watched a video on. It's a Lex MXE spark arrestor and quiet insert. And if you look at once you remove the stock spark arrestor from the bike, you'll kind of realize why it chokes the bike up so much, because there's not a whole lot of space for the air to move in and back out. With this new one, it's all the way open, all the way to the tip, and you get to retain a spark arrestor, and it's bolting right onto your bike. Very easy. The only thing that you have to do with this is I took a pair of metal cutters and I cut around the outsides of it so it would fit into the back of the crf250l exhaust. You also have to drill the holes, and you can do this by taking a piece of cardboard, making a template out of it, drilling the holes. You can see the whole process on this guy's video. I'll link it in the description. It's a really good video. He just is not very descriptive with everything that he does, which is fine. It helped me get to where I am right now. But anyways, overall performance mods, $269. Knock off the $12 for the foam inserts if you don't want them. If you don't want to ruin your airbox, it's fine. You don't need to. All you have to do is take the snorkel out of the airbox, and I think you'll get plenty of air. It will open it up a ton. So this here is my 2019 crf250l. I'm going to run through the performance mods I made on it, then all the other stuff I'm going to try and kind of explain how I put it together in a different video. I wanted to let you know, I'm also working on replacing all of the lights, the turn signals, the brake light, the headlight, into LED, just so 1, they'll last longer, 2, they're not drawing as much power. I just wanted to let you know that will be coming out in a future video as well. Okay, first off, took the seat off. Of course, already did it. Took the strap off the seat. But I came in here, I noticed this snorkel that was sitting in here, and it is quite thick. It is quite restrictive, sticks all the way down pretty far, doesn't allow a whole lot of air to go through this box. So first thing I did was remove that, and I immediately noticed a difference. The throttle response was much greater. I left this completely stock, but just the airflow made a pretty big difference. I then added this EJK electronic jet kit, and basically this is just a bypass for the stock ECU. This is made by Dobeck. Links in the description, the exact one you need for a 2017 to 2019 model. Not sure, the 2020s aren't out yet. Don't know if they're going to change it. If they do, I will not update. If they don't change it, then I will let you know that it will be good for 2020 as well. But anyways, I'll kind of show you how this works. Turn your bike on. See it starting to light up. Fire it up. And immediately it'll tell you where it idles at. It'll tell you where you set your cruising speed at. It'll tell you where you put your acceleration at. And basically all the settings on this thing, I got from some guys who had the 2017 to 2019 model, but they have replaced the whole header and exhaust setup with an FMF or a Yoshimaru. And so I kind of took their settings as a base mark, and then I kind of tweaked it myself as I needed to. I noticed that the bike was giving it too much gas when it was just cruising. I noticed that the bike, when it was slowing down, it actually almost stalled out on me a couple of times. So I switched that, I increased the switching point for in between the idling and the cruising as well. And then I drop down some acceleration. I will give you the numbers for this as soon as I go through the rest of this. What I did, if you see, I left the stock header on because in the 2017 to 2019 crf250l models, they have increased the diameter of it, allowing for more airflow. As far as I know, the actual muffler itself is the exact same, and you can mod it, but pre-2017, I'm not sure it will make that big of a difference because the header is smaller, like I said. But basically the mod that I did was I took this end cap off of here, 1, 2, 3 bolts, and then inside of here there is a insert. It looks like this, and the reason I removed this is because of how restrictive it seems. There's three chambers, 1, 2, 3. Once this sits in, one on this side and one on this side, and basically the wind had to kind of move through here in a way to where it didn't just let it go straight out from the header. It went straight into the exhaust, float around the exhaust a little bit, and then finally pushed it out. And the only exit that the air had in this bike was through these 3 little holes on this spark arrestor. As soon as you take this out, it basically does the same exact thing as having this guy in there rather than this guy. But the reason I wanted this is because I wanted it to be a little bit more quiet. It is louder. It does sound a lot better. I do like the way that it sounds versus stock. It's not ear-piercing loud. It's not way too loud. It doesn't turn heads or anything in this. It doesn't piss people off. It sounds good to me. But I wanted to keep the original spark arrestor in there, or I wanted to keep a spark arrestor in there, and I wanted to make it a little quieter. I've seen people cut this off here too and re-weld it right here. I didn't want to do that because I wanted to keep this bike, I wanted to be able to switch back to completely stock bike with ease. And so far all I have to do to make this completely stock again is remove this, put this back in, and then take the EJK off, and it's a completely stock bike again. I have done nothing to this bike, and put the snorkel back in, but I have done nothing to this bike that makes it impossible to revert back to stock. It's not difficult. It's very easy just to jump back to stock, which is exactly what I wanted. And the fact that I got a performance gain out of it, it just made it all worth it in my opinion. Okay, I'm gonna take this, put it back together, take this bike out, show you how it runs, show you how it sounds on the GoPro. Again, I didn't think that there was much of a reason for me to show you how I did all of this. I will put a link to the guy that piqued my interest on his rally bike. He did this exact thing to his bike. I got this idea from him. I didn't come up with this on my own. I'm not smart enough to come up with that on my own. Here it is on the GoPro. Louder, not too loud, sounds really good. So this bike, when I did everything that I did to it, immediately perked up, and what I mean is that it had quite a bit more low end, which is something that this bike was originally lacking, which is why I didn't like it compared to my motocross bike. It didn't have a whole lot of get up. It gave it a lot more, a lot fast, a lot snappier throttle response. It gave it a lot more power, and as soon as I did all this to it, I took off out of my garage and I popped a wheelie without, like a power wheelie, not a, I didn't pop the clutch or anything like that. Power wheelied out of my driveway, and I was not expecting it. It was very surprising to me. But off-road, this is where this bike actually shines. On-road, it has the power, and in a later video, I'm gonna be getting a 15-tooth sprocket. I've actually already ordered it. It's on the way, and when I get it, I'll be installing it. Show you how to install it, and I'll see how big of a difference it makes while I'm on the freeway. I definitely suggest doing the power mods before doing that, because the bike barely has enough power to pull its own in 6th gear as it is. Now when I ride it on the freeways and here in Ohio, 65 miles per hour, it is perfect. It pulls 6th gear, you can feel it go. You can get up to 75 and get around people if you really have to, but it really is perfect. Another power wheelie. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. I will give you my EJK numbers that I run on my bike. It's 1.5, 4, 4.5, 4.5, 3, 4.5. And I took, what I basically did was I was looking through Reddit, I was looking through Thumper, and I could not find anything about this stupid bike, and finally I found one person who said something about it, and I took his numbers, started off with that. He had a full exhaust system. He had a header and a muffler. It provided a lot more airflow, I think, than what I did to mine, but mine still makes a dramatic performance increase for a lot less. Probably saves $600 not replacing that header and muffler. Anyways, I will post that below, and I think that about wraps it up. So I will see you in a future video. If you liked this video, let me know. If you didn't like this, let me know still. Like, subscribe, do all of that. Comment if you have any questions. I will put the link for my Reddit down below. I have posted a couple things on there. I put a tutorial of how to do the light mount. I'll make some more future videos about it, and I will see you later.